Hey, my name's Kelly, and since just after Christmas, I would say that I have been pulled, and just an inner knowing deep in me that this is what I need to do to get me seen and heard in a way that I can right now. There's so much to me and so much that I have to share, and for a long time I couldn't really understand why and how. The prediction machine up here was telling me all the ways that I was crazy, and that, well, how and how's that going to work? And although I've been overcoming that with the inner work and the shadow work and the healing that I've been doing since last year, I just now, especially last night, something clicked in a way for me that I finally understood it. And I've been trying to wrap my brain around how, and trying to think of how other people have been doing it. All I've been being told, and the messages and what I've been hearing, is that I simply just need to be me. And I couldn't fathom that. I couldn't get my head around, well, why would anyone want to hear me? And well, last night that changed, but ultimately this all started last year for me. Officially, I would say really started happening and changing in the beginning of October. But yeah, I didn't realise at the time what was happening, but I've been having a spiritual awakening, and I never thought that that was something that I would experience or could experience because of the past versions of me I've been, and I've lived my whole adult life up until now feeling that I was such a bad, negative, awful person. All the things and all the past versions I've been of me, and all the things that I've done, and all the paths that I've gone down, that I would never have gifts and be able to be spiritual or help people in the way that I now know and understand. Not fully, but just a deep inner knowing that me simply being me and sharing me and my journey and my experience through this, even if it's only one person, could help someone that is really struggling or not understanding what's going on, and really believing that they could never be anything more than their past versions or their current versions, and all the trauma and everything else that comes with that. And I know I'm here to help be living proof that it can happen to anyone if you are willing to do the inner work, if you're willing to face every raw truth of you and stand in the truth of you boldly, then you can free yourself from all the narratives and all the things that have programmed you since birth, really. Family dynamics and what we're made to believe is how it should be, the matrix of it all. That it's not. That there is so much more here than that. And I know I need to share it. So if you feel called to stay and listen, and you feel connected, or there's anything in you that thinks, okay, I'm interested, then please stay. But if not, then I'm not here for you. I'm simply just speaking my truth and speaking of me. And yeah, but this all, I think, last year, like a lot of years, was a tough one. The year of the snake. 2025 was a bitch of a year. And our year started, yeah, it was pretty rubbish. We were involved in a crypto scam, and that crypto scam just evolved into something so huge, so much debt. I had both my high street bank accounts closed, and yeah, lost a lot of money, and simply because we were just trying to get out of a crappy situation that we've been in for quite a while, and we just wanted to invest and try and make some money and be able to move and just have a better life, bring a better life for my children. And yeah, but yeah, that went, and that was pretty intense. And I think I have lived my whole adult life in a lack mindset and victim mindset, I would say. Yeah, and that for me changed quite suddenly, I would say, in around July last year. Yeah, there's so much to me, and so this is just the initial video to put me out there, just a little piece, but there is so much to me, and I'm not sharing it for any other reason than I know I'm here to help, and I know I'm here to resonate with more people because of all the experiences and life experiences that I have had, good, bad and ugly, and a lot of them I have chosen to go down those bad, dark paths. But I've got to a point and a realization that it's all been for a reason, and that for me is the biggest sense of relief, because I have held so much judgment and shame and guilt, and not understanding why I have made the choices I have, and why I had to, why did I have to be that person? Because when I look back on those, that's not me now. I'm none of those versions. Even to 5 months ago, when I look back at that version of me, I no longer, I can't believe that I survived in that survival mode for as long as I did. But out of all the past versions of me, that last one that I am now, I feel like is dying, in a sense, that is no longer needed, and I don't resonate with her whatsoever anymore. But she has by far been the catalyst and the warrior that has got me to be who I am today. She has been through the I say it's she, past tense, but I don't feel that that's me anymore. I don't see myself. I've detached myself from those versions, and that isn't me. And I've spent my whole life living as if that all those past versions were me, and they weren't. They were just events throughout my life and decisions I've made to be able to get to who I am now, but they aren't the things that define me. But she was by far the strongest out of all of them that I've ever been. She went through so much sadness and grief and loneliness and darkness alone. But in that, I am who I am today. And I've always been so afraid of being by myself, always relying on others to give me an answer, never trusting my intuition, never trusting anything in me whatsoever. I have spent my whole adult life up until now, literally, I'd say the last couple of months, absolutely hating everything about me, feeling the worst things that you could feel about yourself, which is really quite devastating when I think of that, of how little I thought of myself and how I'd been programmed and how my mind had made me truly believe I was worthless and not enough for anyone. And none of it's true. Yes, I've made wrong, poor decisions in my life, but they have all got me to be the person I am now, and so that I can stand here and share those with you, because I wish I'd had the same going through all of this. But you'll also get the gist of me. My head is all over the place. I have things, I'm just flowing with what comes out. It needs to come out. And that was something that I realised yesterday. It's been really back in my brain. I know that I'm here to channel, and I found someone on YouTube a couple of months ago, and I kept not going on her videos, because I was like, no, it's not. And it just kept coming. Her videos kept coming, and I was like, okay, I need to click on there. And yeah, I now realise is my mentor, and is many, who she is here to help mentor people like me, souls like me that have recently awakened and really starting to understand my soul's purpose here on earth. And it is the most alive, oh my gosh, and passionate and excited that I have ever felt, truly, in my life. And don't get me wrong, I have 6 beautiful children that I worship and that are my entire world, and if it wasn't for them, I possibly wouldn't be here. But because of them, I am, and the strength within me also, and I believe my guides and my ancestors and my angels that are constantly around me, that have got me to this point now. And so, yeah, but it was around July time last year that my mindset changed so suddenly that I didn't even know what the hell was going on. I just remember feeling just so grateful and it was such a shock because I'd gone from such a lack victim mindset to this person that I was just feeling so grateful for just having a roof over our head. And as I progress, I'll explain more, but our living situation and where we were living, and it, you know, it wasn't great, but I just remember just feeling so grateful that at least we had a roof over our head. After everything, all the issues we've had to literally just about manage to afford to buy food for our children, to have food in the fridge, just to all of those things, I was just so grateful for. I was so grateful that our children were well and healthy and happy. They didn't know any different. That's all they'd ever known. So for them, they were so happy. And I just remember thinking, my God, we're so blessed. And the partner that I was with then was very stuck in victim and being so angry and not being able to fully understand where I was coming from. And I understood that. Everyone has their journey, everyone has their path, and I just know that things started to change. Not fully, I remember feeling when I would talk about certain things, I would have full body chills. And at the time, I didn't really understand what that meant. Now I know it's energy. It's energy, and it's, oh my gosh, it's the best feeling. But I was started to feel it all the time, especially when I'd speak about certain people, that, especially one person in particular. I believe she's part of my soul family. She's just, yeah. She's just, I feel like two peas in a pod in so many ways. But when I'd speak about her, I literally would feel so connected, and the energy would just, now I understand, but I'd get full body chills, and it was just, but I started to feel that more and more. And a bit of a backstory, my mum was very spiritual. She was so gifted. And she was clairvoyant. She never used any of that or worked. She just, for herself, but she just had knowings, and she was, very gifted. But because of all the past versions of me, I didn't believe that I was a good enough person to be spiritual. And one thing that really gets me, and I've really learned, is people think that spirituality is airy-fairy, it's all light and love and wonderful. A spiritual awakening is really powerful, and I will go into more in depth of how mine began. But in no way is it easy, because you have to face so many, all of the inner shadows and darkness of you. And it's been an absolute roller coaster. But anyway, I'll go back. July came, and I very much was starting to change how I was feeling, and I just felt better, and I was just feeling just so grateful for what we had. And things financially did ease up a little bit, nothing majorly, but things got better, so that was really good, so that helped. And it wasn't until October, it was the beginning of October, I remember waking up and nothing had changed, same routine, there was nothing exciting, nothing different going on, just taking my babies to nursery, to school and nursery, and just doing the mummy routine. But I remember waking up and having this, the only way I could describe it is this excitement in me, as if the only way, if you're going to go on holiday or there was something exciting coming up. And the only other time that I ever felt like that, very much when I was a child. I remember being so excited for Christmas and birthdays, and I'd make myself physically sick because of the excitement of it. But the only other time that I felt that excitement was when I would dance. But I think I now realise that when I danced, I would feel what I feel now, and it was energy. I would get full body chills when I danced. It just made me feel alive, and that is how I started to feel in October. And yeah, I didn't understand it. I just remember thinking, what is this? And I think I'd been in such a dark place for so long. I don't remember the last time I felt that way. And it was so exciting, but also I was a bit on edge. I didn't understand it. I didn't get, why was I feeling like this? There was nothing changing. Everything was still the same in the 3D world, in the 3D earth, you know, nothing had changed. I just was just remembering, I just felt more alive. I remember taking my boys to school, and we were walking down from dropping my son off to nursery, and walking down the road, and I remember grabbing their hands, and just my twins, and skipping down the road and just feeling like a little kid. And it was lovely, because I hadn't felt that for such a long time, that it was just, yeah, it was lovely. It felt so good. But as the days went on, another huge thing, I've never trusted my intuition. I didn't even think I had intuition, because of, yeah, how I've been programmed and how I thought and what I thought about myself. But I'm very much an Instagram girl, and I would go on there. That was my way of just looking at, and my Instagram, my algorithm was full of autistic mums, because we believe our youngest son, who's 4, we're waiting for him to be diagnosed, but we believe he's autistic, and that's fine. But it was full of autistic mums. It was full of health, fitness, menopause, perimenopause, all the wonderful things us women go through. It was full of that. And I remember I started writing a journal, because I started journaling, which I'd never done before. And it was around, I think I started first journaling around the 3rd of October, but it was around that time. I've saved every single post that, especially at the beginning, very much. But my algorithm, and I mean my algorithm, changed overnight. It went from all of those things and clothes and, you know, fashion and stuff, to being literally only tarot readers. And I've never been into tarot. I've never been into any of that. Not tarot. Spirituality, yes, more, and stars and star signs and things like that, but never tarot. But these messages started popping up, and I at the time thought it was linked more, wishful thinking, thought it could possibly be all the money we lost in a scam. Possibly that could be coming back, because there was messages of having unexpected money coming to me. And it started off pretty much like that. And I remember thinking, okay, this is good. Maybe because we'd had many, we tried to look into trying to get the money back from crypto. You can't. There's just endless more scams, and people trying to say that they can, and they can't. But at the time, for me, that was the only thing. And I remember just thinking, well, the only thing it can be is that. Because for me, there was no other way that I was ever I don't, you know, I was a carer. I'm a carer to my youngest son. I don't work. How's that going to happen? But as it carried on and the days went on, I carried on feeling this way, and I carried on feeling just so much lighter and just feeling more positive, and it just, yeah, and the messages on there started to change, and they started to talk about being a generational curse breaker and speaking about generational wealth and black sheep and being a black sheep. And first I was like, I don't understand this, but that all the messages were coming for that. And it was around that time that I was pulled to start meditating, and I would follow a guided meditation because I'd always really wanted to, but my brain, I'm a massive overthinker, my brain just won't shut off. And so I really was like, no, I need to do this, I need to meditate. Like a lot of the messages that I was getting through, they were coming onto my page, and people say, oh, it's just the algorithm. As it progressed, it just, I'll explain more, but they were coming and saying, you need to meditate, you need to ground yourself, and you need to sit quietly and connect to source. And I didn't fully, but I started, and it became very easy for me. Actually, no, I'm lying, it didn't come very easy. It was a struggle, first of all, for me to ground, because every time I'd ground and visualize me grounding to the earth, and for me to connect to source, I struggled. I remember it took me a long time to fully shut my brain off, because I would start meditating and then it would go swishing off, and it felt like my brain was just, it wanted to distract me from fully allowing me to connect. So it did take me a while, but I did, and I remember just feeling so grounded and really connected, and I felt like I was, just more connected. And as the messages carried on and they carried on changing, it was changing as my awakening developed, and it continued. And it wasn't for a while that the messages started explaining that I was having what I was feeling. It was an awakening. And things they were saying, I was like, my gosh, yeah, that makes sense. And then speaking of my soul's purpose, and realizing that everything that I've experienced in my life has been for a reason, and has all been part of my soul's purpose to be who I am now, for this awakening to be happening now. And the more I was listening, the more it was all making so much sense to me. And this inner excitement and this inner pull, when I had started to hear that, so many things clicked into place for me. Especially the feeling of, a few years ago I was drawn to social media, and I was drawn to content creator, and I just didn't. And I think because of all my past versions of me, and I was nowhere ready to be seen and to be criticised and to be judged for how I looked, this and that, because there is just so much to me and so many things that I've battled. I just didn't feel in any way that I could show up, and I just wasn't. I hadn't done any of the healing, I hadn't done any inner work, so there was no way that I was but it was a pull, and it was a real, I have known for quite a few years deep within, but not really understanding how. But I've had this deep inner knowing that I'm here through all my experiences that I've had in life, that I'm somehow meant to help others with that. But I had no clue how that would be. I think in my mind I was thinking maybe it was women's health, because starting the menopause and perimenopause and everything, that I felt there wasn't enough help out there. There are amazing people that are ambassadors and doing an amazing job at doing that now and really working hard for women. But that was something that I thought. Then it was, I'm very into my health, fitness and skincare. Naturally, I'm very into taking care of myself from the inside out. And that's been a big passion that I've always had. And so I thought it could be there, but then I sat and I'd think, but there's so many people out there doing all the same things. And it was, it just wasn't the right time for me. I put it out there and it just wasn't the right time. Even a travel business at one point, but I'm not into travel. I've not traveled. I've never gone anywhere. And it's a lot harder. And I think with an autistic child, they're very demanding. And I couldn't, it's however much they say once you're established, it's great, but you had to work really hard for it. And it just wasn't a passion. And at the time, I think I was just trying to purely do it to just try and make some money, because we were in trouble financially, and so I was just trying to make it easier. But yeah, I always felt that there was a pull and a deep inner passion in me to want to help others. I just had no clue. Well, this all unfolding, it was like a light bulb, ping. Oh my gosh. And they were talking about sharing my journey and my life with others, and how my journey can help others. And when I actually sat there and I actually started realizing, and I kept hearing that, how intuitive I was and how I didn't even realize my own gifts. And yeah, I remember standing there and it was like, I'm not gifted. I don't have intuition. And how wrong was I? Oh, there's so much. But I think the next thing that I started believing more, and through the messages, very much on social media. I think on Instagram, I really relied on that heavily, because I didn't trust my intuition. I didn't trust what I was feeling. Didn't trust what I was, now I realise, were downloads and was hearing. It was a way for me to listen. And I trusted others. I trusted others over I trusted myself. I didn't trust anything about me. I didn't trust I was good enough. None of it. So for me to hear it from others, it was a lot easier to trust others than it was to even trust myself, which is just the most ridiculous thing. I know that now, but that's how, and a low vibrational frequency I was working at for my whole adult life. And I think as things started to progress and more things were coming up, and I know I was like, my gosh. And I think one morning, and there was like, I'd start my day really positive, and I had severe insecurities, massive insecurities, especially regarding my last relationship. From the very beginning, it was, I didn't trust. There was no trust there. And yeah, that's a whole different story that I know I need to share, because there are people that are experiencing the same thing, and I really want to share that. But I had a lot of triggers, and not feeling good enough, not trusting that I was enough, not believing that someone could only want me and that I was fully enough me. But I think I've spent so long thinking me as in my vessel and my human form being the person I am, Kelly. That was what made me me. And it's that awakening to realizing that what makes me me is my soul, my essence of me, not the human vessel. This is just a vessel for me to experience a human experience here as a soul. And I'm a soul, and that soul is me. That makes me me. All my experiences, all the passions and the feelings and everything, that is what makes me me. And that, yeah, that kind of blew my mind. That really took a while, because I've really struggled with that. But that for me was really tough, and I think I was starting to feel better, but things would come up in my day. And I remember one time something ridiculous came up, and I put it in my journal. And I know now I can stand there and laugh, but that feeling, that gut feeling that came in this moment, I was having such a good morning, feeling so positive, and yeah, just feeling so good. Not letting those anxieties and my constant overthinking, what's he doing? Is he messaging other people? And it's just, and I remember going to the fridge, and it was about apples. It was the most, someone would look at me and be like, you are batshit crazy. And I actually felt like I was crazy, and he on many occasions told me I was crazy, which I really believed I was. I felt everything that I had done in my past, I didn't deserve anything good, and it was karma. Everything that was happening to me bad was my karma, because of the person and the past versions I had been of myself. And it makes me sad to think that I had survived like that for so long, but many people do. But yeah, all of this I will delve in deep. If you want to hear. If you don't, no, you don't. But yeah, I was having a trigger, and it was all about an apple, and I had this gut-wrenching, sickening feeling, and it's like a drop in my stomach that, oh my God, is he meeting people? And all my brain started going, blah. And in that moment, I just had this realization of, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why you are again letting those voices and that trigger you. And in that moment, it took me a while for me to realize, but in that in itself was a huge breakthrough, because I'd clocked it. Whereas before, when I'd get those feelings of mistrust and sick and oh my God, this just inner feeling of, oh my God, is he doing something? Is he cheating on me? Is he messaging other women? Oh my God. I would have let that spiral, and my brain would have gone 10 to 0. I would have been messaging, I'd have gone into full on meltdown. And that was the beginning of it for me, that I was like, no. And I actually saw it, and I knew it, and I could feel it, that feeling. And I thought, no, do not let this take over again. You are working so hard at this. You cannot let this take control of your life, because for the last 7-8 years, oh my God, it taken so much from me, because I miss so much, because I was a shell of me. I'd let those triggers and those insecurities and those awful feelings that I put on myself, I let them take over, and I controlled so much. I missed so much. I don't remember so much of that time, because I was so lost in depression. I was so lost in anxiety, and just, I was lost. And in that moment, I took my fucking power back. Excuse my French, but that is how it felt. I was like, no, I am not going to let you, whatever it was. I felt like it was a demon on my shoulder for so long that was telling me that I was not good enough. I didn't deserve to have happiness. I didn't deserve anything good in my life because of everything that I'd been and everything I'd done. And I wasn't going to let that win anymore. I couldn't survive more of that. I was done. And in that moment, I remember just standing and just breathing, and remember thinking, right, breathe. Breathing is such a huge thing, and I know it's things that we just do naturally, but really intentionally breathing. And I remember reining that sick feeling in and being no, and breathing in for 5 and breathing in pure white light, and then exhaling all the tar and negative that I had built up so much in me out. And I did that for a good 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes I think. And that awful, sickening, gut-wrenching feeling that I was so bloody used to died down. And the voices of, you can't trust this, quietened. And I remember in that moment feeling so proud of myself. And that happened quite a few times over a span of a few weeks when this was all happening. There were so many things that used to trigger me, and I would start. There was one time I know something triggered me. I can't even remember, but something triggered me, and I was on my way home from picking my son up from nursery, and my partner at the time was home, and I came home and his phone was on the side, and I can guarantee you, if that had been like a month or 2 before all of this was unfolding for me, I'd have been on that phone searching up this feeling that I was having. He's doing something, he's up to something. I would have gone on it and searched, but I was so proud of myself that I didn't. And it was just a feeling of, I was just really proud. And it might not be a big thing to someone else, but for me that was a really big thing. And I was taking the steps at really working on me from the inside out. And it carried on, and I know one morning I woke up and feeling so good, and I remember then all of a sudden it was like this doubt and this, it's like, my God, if I was to say this to someone like my partner, if I was to tell him what I'm feeling and what I believe I'm here to do, he's gonna think I'm batshit crazy. And that really took over, and it was really, it made me down, and then my brain was overthinking and going into all the ways. Well, yeah, of course he's going to think you're crazy. And anyway, I was like, right, come on, get myself ready. And I really had to push myself because I'd got into such a bad of being a complete and utter hermit. And I isolated myself from everyone, apart from my children. But yeah, and so yeah. But in the morning I remember thinking, no, come on, let's be positive. And I was getting myself ready. Well, I went to get in the shower and I was going to put music. I started liking to listen to meditation music while I was in the shower, because water, I felt so, I now understand, I felt so connected. Every time I went in the water, I literally would get full body chills, and the energy that I could feel running through me was, wow, it was really powerful. And I really started to notice that. But I was about to get in the shower, put my meditation music on, and something made me go onto Instagram. So I popped on Instagram, and someone that I had started to follow popped up, and she was a tarot reader, and she said, I remember her saying, I've saved every single one. And she popped up and she was like, okay, I've just been pulled out of think it was working out or yoga or something, being pulled out of that because the angels have come to me saying that you need a message right now. And she said, so here I am. And she was like, your angels want you to know that you're not going crazy, that what you're feeling is true. It's your intuition. And I was so taken aback. And I actually even remember laughing to myself. And I got in the shower and had my shower, and that really lifted me. And I came out, and anyway, got to Boyce. We were getting the Boyce to school. I was on the bus and went on Instagram because that was kind of like my safe place, and I felt like it was the only place that I felt understood for what I was experiencing. No one around me would understand what I was feeling, and it's not that they understood, but they did in a way. And I know that there was one of them, and she came up and she said, Archangel Michael is wanting to ask you something. Has your algorithm changed overnight? And I sat and I was like, and she went, and what I mean by that is, has it gone from being full of fitness and fashion and this and that to full of tarot readers? And I sat and I was like, oh my God, yeah. And she said, yeah, there's a reason for that. She was like, your angels, your guides are speaking to you through social media because you are not trusting your intuition. You are not trusting you. So they are communicating with you through social media. And that was really the turning point, that I was like, right, I have got to buckle down now. I've got to stop worrying about what others could be thinking of me. And that's huge for me because I had so much judgment for myself, for the past versions of me and my outer vessel also. I think I could possibly have suffered from body dysmorphia, maybe not, but I think it got to a point where I knew I had so much inner healing I needed to do, I didn't even know where to start. So for me, I thought fixing things on the outside would make me feel better. And I'd say that's another experiences that I've gone through that I obviously had to, it was part of my journey, so that I can, again, it's another side to me that I can be relatable to others that have the same insecurities and regarding their body and how they look and how that really can affect you mentally. But anyway, again, that's another thing. See, I'm just yeah, whole big thing. But that for me was really the turning point when I started getting these messages and those messages, and I was like, no, I really, but it was a really positive time. But they call it the dark night of the soul, but my mentor has recently, and Source Zero, as she calls her higher self, has made it clearer that it's not dark night of the soul, it's dark night of the ego. And that for me makes so much sense, because your ego tries to keep you safe. It tries to keep you in what it knows. And I'd spent my whole life feeling that, and that's how it was programmed. That's how it kept me safe, by surviving in those moments, in overthinking, in not feeling good enough, judgment and everything else. And the minute you start trying to start reprogramming that and start feeling